Well, here's how you throw your fan base and WNBA fans at large into a collective panic. Caitlin Clark on the injury report, which is exactly what happened as the Indiana Fever put out the report, the status update for the first preseason game against the Washington Mystics, and Caitlin Clark, the only player on it, listed as questionable with a left leg injury. Now, I've seen a lot of injury reports in my day, and I'll say this. Of course, you get a jump scare when you see Clark's name there, given what she means to the Fever and what she means to the league. But it's a good sign that she's listed as questionable for a preseason game, which means there's a chance she plays, there's a chance she doesn't. Obviously, most of you know the definition of the word questionable, but out would make it a lot scarier, right? Even doubtful would make it slightly scarier. Questionable means, to me, this is more a maintenance, preventative kind of deal. And you know that the Fever also have the game in Iowa, at Iowa, the next day. So perhaps it's a combination of making sure she's at 100% and making sure, she can play a little bit more in that homecoming game for Hawkeyes fans. But, anytime you see it, it gives you a little bit of a scare. There's no question. You can't get around that, right? There you have it. Tomorrow's game status report versus Washington. Caitlin Clark, questionable left leg. And it's just like, whoo. And trust me, I feel the same way so many of you do when you see something like that because of let's not mince words. Caitlin Clark is the driving force behind the interest in the Fever and the interest in the WNBA at large. Not trying to start any fights with that comment. That's just the truth of the matter. And of course, we've all been eagerly anticipating her return to the court over this long offseason. So as soon as it's right there, as soon as there's a taste, it's like, oh no, right? And of course, injuries happen in sports. It's the unfortunate reality, the nature of the business. And it's the kind of thing that you never want to see with anybody. We've seen some already in the WNBA preseason, right? Some fairly significant ones, obviously. Georgia Amore being the one that stands out the most because of the ACL nature, and you don't want to see that for any player, but it happens, and it's always a concern. It's always a concern in the back of your mind for any player whenever you see a player go down, and of course whenever you see a player land on the injury report. But I have to imagine this is out of an abundance of caution. And you also see the reports from the people who were at practice who said that she looked fine. She was moving around fine. So it doesn't seem as if there is any cause for panic other than seeing it pop up on your timeline or in your inbox or on your text message, however you receive the news. Because by all accounts, Caitlin Clark looked fine at practice today, was moving around fine, was taking shots, all that sort of stuff. And again, she's only listed as questionable, which is an indication of the severity or lack thereof of the injury. But Kelsey Mitchell said, even if there is a injury, right, like the injury report, hopefully it's just, like a little nagging thing. And again, it's preseason. It doesn't count. The game doesn't count, and it's a back-to-back. And in the NBA, we've learned how injuries are managed, and load management has become a buzz term or two-word term. But that is, the kind of thing that people get concerned about, and NBA teams try to manage back-to-backs, and you'll see that all the time in the NBA, where a player is held out because of a mystery ailment or maintenance or recovery, what have you. And in this case, you haven't seen it quite as much as in the WNBA, but I think it's more so because it's just the first game back. And it is a back-to-back. Why they have back-to-back games in the preseason is beyond me anyway. That doesn't make any sense. Now, I wasn't even thinking about it before, but thinking about it now, it doesn't make any sense if you're trying to keep players as safe as possible and injuries as limited as possible. Anyhow, there was something that Kelsey Mitchell said at practice that was kind of interesting in light of this news, because you look back on it and you go, oh, all right. Maybe that was a telling comment. this is what Kelsey Mitchell had to say about recovery.
Take care of your body and just make sure you.
I think recovery is everything. I think if you're in tune to your body, you know what you need. The young ones, specifically Caitlin, hopefully they take more being tuned to that this year. And just for the duration of knowing when we have back-to-backs, but it's important that we do take recovery seriously.
You know, it's pretty fascinating, especially Caitlin. That almost gives me the indication that Kelsey, Caitlin was fighting this whole situation. I don't know. I'm reading into it. I'm definitely reading into it. But in light of the status report that came out, it's an interesting comment from Kelsey Mitchell, because Caitlin Clark is the type to want to play through anything and fight through anything and get on the court and refuse to sit out, all that sort of stuff. And to hear Kelsey Mitchell say, like, especially Caitlin, that was telling, perhaps in retrospect, in knowing what happened. But Caitlin has looked fine in training camp and practice. And of course, this clip hit the timeline as well, which is a little bit of the trademark from Caitlin Clark. In transition, no hesitation, dash. And that's what fans were looking forward to seeing, right? There it is again. So if it's delayed one day, all right. If she misses the game on Sunday, I mean, look, they got to err on the side of caution. I don't care where they're playing. I don't care, Hawkeye, Iowa, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not a regular season game. But if she were to miss the game on Sunday, my concern levels would increase. But questionable for the first preseason game, can pause. Let's quell the concerns for now. But anytime you see Caitlin Clark pop up on the injury report, I understand. I feel the same way. Again, I'm with you. We're together in that feeling, in that moment of like reading and processing it. We're searching for all the information. Don't have a panic attack. But I feel fairly confident, or not fairly. I feel confident that when you get the reports from the people who were there at practice, and by the way, I'm going to be going out to the opener. I'll be credentialed media for the opener, the Fever against the Sky in Indianapolis, because I'm going to give you guys some on-the-ground coverage as well throughout this season. But I'll be doing that for Indiana Fever on SI. But regardless, when you see the people who were there at practice and the fact that she's just listed as questionable for a preseason game, I can say fairly strongly, I keep saying fairly, I got to stop qualifying it. I can say with confidence that Caitlin Clark is okay.